Did you know that a single calculation error on a rent increase in Los Angeles could now trigger a $20,000 lawsuit, even if it was an honest mistake? Shockingly, as of 2026, California has redefined habitability so strictly that missing a single working refrigerator in a San Jose apartment can render your entire property legally unrentable. We are entering a terrifying new era where the state can freeze your evictions for months just because a tenant's federal check is late, and market rate pricing software could land you in a $1 million antitrust battle. The rules of the game have been rewritten overnight, and the old way of landlording is officially dead. If you own property from San Diego to Sacramento, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb of compliance traps. Stick with me, because the loophole I'm revealing at the end is the only thing standing between your retirement fund and a predatory legal nightmare. Number 1. The Mandatory Appliance Mandate, AB 628. The days of the appliance-free rental are officially over in California, and if you haven't updated your lease agreements for 2026, you could be walking straight into a legal buzzsaw. Under the newly enacted Assembly Bill 628, the state has fundamentally rewritten the definition of a habitable dwelling. For any new or renewed lease signed in cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, or San Jose, landlords are now legally required to provide, and more importantly, maintain, a working stove and a refrigerator. While this might sound like standard practice in most of the country, it is a massive shift for Southern California markets where tenants traditionally brought their own appliances. The financial risk here is staggering. If a unit lacks these items, it is legally deemed untenantable, meaning a tenant could potentially withhold rent or sue for breach of habitability, damages that can reach tens of thousands of dollars. The law is incredibly specific. The stove must be capable of safely generating heat for cooking, and the refrigerator must safely store food at proper temperatures. There is a small opt-out window where a tenant can voluntarily choose to bring their own fridge, but this must be documented in the lease with very specific legal language. Even then, the tenant can change their mind with just 30 days' notice, forcing you to install a compliant unit immediately. Furthermore, if an appliance is under a manufacturer recall, you now have a strict 30-day clock to repair or replace it once notified. To protect your productivity and your wallet, you should audit your portfolio across Long Beach and Oakland today. Don't let a $800 refrigerator become the reason you lose $20,000 in court. Ensure your maintenance team is ready to respond to appliance failures within 48 hours to avoid repair and deduct scenarios that eat into your monthly cash flow. If you want to stay ahead of these aggressive California housing shifts, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Don't miss our next deep dive. Tap the bell icon to get notified the second we drop more life-saving tips for your rental business. Number 2. Social Security Hardship Defense, AB 246. The Social Security Tenant Protection Act, or Assembly Bill 246, is perhaps the most significant shift in eviction procedure we have seen this decade, effectively creating a pause button on your rental income that you cannot override. If you own property in areas with high senior populations, like Palm Springs, Sacramento, or parts of San Diego, this law directly impacts your cash flow security. As of 2026, California law allows a tenant to assert a Social Security hardship as a formal affirmative defense in court if they are facing eviction for non-payment of rent. This means that if the federal government experiences a technical glitch, an administrative delay, or a system-wide interruption that holds up a tenant's Social Security check for even 3 days, your eviction case can be stayed, or frozen, for up to 6 months. For the high-productivity landlord, this is a massive administrative hurdle. In the past, a 3-day notice to pay or quit was a straightforward legal tool. Now, in cities like Fresno or Bakersfield, you must navigate a complex series of declarations. If a declared Social Security benefit payment interruption is active, your standard 3-day notice could be rendered void unless it includes specific state-mandated hardship forms. The tenant simply needs to provide evidence that their household benefits were reduced or delayed through no fault of their own. While the law does not forgive the rent, the tenant still owes every penny. It strips you of the ability to regain possession of your property while they wait for the federal government to fix its paperwork. To stay ahead, you must verify if your tenants rely on these benefits and adjust your emergency reserves accordingly. Relying on a standard eviction timeline is a luxury of the past. In 2026, the federal government's efficiency, or lack thereof, now dictates your property's vacancy rate. Number 3. The Death of 2-Month Deposits, AB 12. The financial cushion that California landlords have relied on for decades has officially vanished under Assembly Bill 12. As of 2026, the standard practice of collecting 2 months' rent for an unfurnished unit, or 3 months for a furnished one, is strictly illegal for the vast majority of property owners. Whether your rental is in the high-demand streets of San Francisco or the sprawling suburbs of Riverside, you are now legally capped at a security deposit of exactly 1 month's rent, regardless of the unit's furnishing or the tenant's background. This is a massive blow to risk management, as that single month now has to cover everything: unpaid rent, professional cleaning, and physical damages. If you violate this cap, you aren't just looking at returning the overage. You are opening yourself up to bad faith statutory penalties that can cost you 3 times the total deposit amount plus the tenant's attorney fees. The implications for your tenant screening process in cities like Santa Clara or San Diego cannot be overstated. Because your damage buffer has been slashed by 50% to 66%, the margin for error when selecting a resident has disappeared. You can no longer use a higher deposit to offset the risk of a tenant with a lower credit score or a spotty rental history. Furthermore, new 2026 regulations under AB 2801 now mandate that any deduction over $125 must be backed by rigorous photographic evidence and specific invoices within 21 days. If you fail to provide photos of the before and after conditions or miss the deadline by even 1 day, you forfeit the entire deposit. For the high-productivity landlord, the strategy must shift from collecting security to preventing damage. You need to implement digital move-in inspections with time-stamped video and strictly enforce your maintenance standards, as the law has effectively shifted the financial burden of tenant wear and tear directly onto your bottom line. Number 4. Algorithmic Price Fixing Ban, AB 325. If you rely on automated software to suggest your rental rates, you are likely in violation of one of the most aggressive antitrust laws in the nation. As of January 1, 2026, Assembly Bill 325 has fundamentally amended California's primary antitrust statute, the Cartwright Act, to criminalize the use of common pricing algorithms. This law is aimed directly at the heart of property management tech used in major hubs like San Diego, San Francisco, and Irvine. For years, landlords used software that pooled non-public data from competitors to recommend the highest possible market rent. Under AB 325, this is now viewed as digital collusion, a hub-and-spoke conspiracy where the software acts as the coordinator to artificially inflate prices across entire neighborhoods. The legal threshold has shifted dangerously. A tenant or the attorney general no longer needs to prove you had a secret meeting with other landlords. They only need to show it is plausible that the software's recommendations were used to align prices. The financial stakes are catastrophic. Violations of this law carry joint and several liability, meaning a single landlord in Los Angeles could theoretically be held responsible for the collective damages of an entire price-fixing conspiracy involving thousands of units they don't even own. Criminal fines have surged to $1 million for individuals and $6 million for corporations, while civil penalties can add another $1 million per violation. To remain productive and protected in 2026, you must pivot away from set it and forget it pricing models. You should audit your software immediately to ensure it does not use competitor data to influence your commercial terms, which the law now defines broadly to include lease durations and even amenity fees. In this new landscape, the most successful investors will be those who return to manual market analysis or use tools that strictly rely on public-facing data. Ignoring this shift isn't just a management error. It's a $1 million liability waiting to be triggered by a single savvy tenant. Number 5. Mandatory Electronic Deposit Returns, AB 414. The way you handle the final accounting at the end of a lease has been fundamentally modernized, and failing to adapt to this digital shift could lead to a bad faith legal nightmare. Under Assembly Bill 414, which officially took effect on January 1, 2026, California has transitioned to a digital-first model for security deposit refunds. For landlords in tech-heavy hubs like Palo Alto, Irvine, or San Francisco, the new rule is clear. If your tenant paid their initial security deposit or any portion of their rent electronically, via Zelle, Venmo, or a property management portal, you are now required to return the remaining deposit electronically as well. Gone are the days when you could simply drop a paper check in the mail and consider your duty done. The law now presumes that if the money flowed to you digitally, it must flow back to the tenant the same way, unless both parties have signed a specific written agreement stating otherwise. This change is designed to eliminate the common check lost in the mail excuse that often triggers the 21-day legal deadline for deposit returns. For the high-productivity landlord, this is actually a massive efficiency gain, but it requires a strict update to your move-out workflow. If you manage properties in Oakland or San Diego with multiple adult roommates, the law adds another layer of complexity. You must return the total remaining deposit in a single transaction to an account designated by all tenants, or obtain written consent from everyone involved to send it to one specific person. Furthermore, AB 414 now permits you to send the mandatory itemized statement of deductions via email, but only if you have the tenant's prior written consent. To stay compliant in 2026, you should audit your lease addendums today to include digital refund and email statement authorizations. In this new era, your speed and digital accuracy are your best defense against the heavy penalties California courts levy for mishandled deposits. Number 6. The Fridge and Stove Habitability Rule. The legal definition of a habitable home in California has undergone a radical transformation that effectively makes every landlord a mandatory appliance provider. Under the sweeping changes brought by Assembly Bill 628, which is now in full effect for 2026, a rental property is no longer considered fit for human occupation, simply because it has running water and a roof. In major metropolitan centers like Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim, the absence of a working stove or a functional refrigerator now constitutes a per se violation of the implied warranty of habitability. This marks the end of a decades-long LA tradition, where tenants were often expected to haul their own bulky refrigerators into new apartments. If you are operating a rental in Orange County or Riverside, you must understand that these appliances are now legally categorized alongside heat, electricity, and plumbing as essential services. The operational risks for landlords have skyrocketed because the law attaches strict performance standards to these machines. A stove that merely turns on is not enough. It must be capable of safely generating heat for cooking purposes. Likewise, a refrigerator must be capable of safely storing food at modern safety temperatures. If a compressor fails in a San Diego beach rental or a burner stops working in a San Jose condo, the tenant now has a powerful legal lever. They can argue the unit is legally untenantable. Under Civil Code Section 1942.4, if an appliance failure remains unaddressed for more than 35 days after written notice, you could be barred from collecting rent or pursuing an eviction altogether. Furthermore, the 2026 law introduces a strict recall clause. If a manufacturer issues a safety recall for a model you have installed, you have a rigid 30-day window to repair or replace it, or you face potential bad faith damages. To maintain productivity, you must implement an appliance serial number tracking system across your portfolio to ensure you aren't unknowingly sitting on a recalled unit that could sink your next eviction case. Number 7. Multifamily ADU Explosion, SB 1211. For the ambitious investor, Senate Bill 1211 is the single most powerful wealth-hacking tool passed in the last decade, effectively allowing you to bypass years of red tape and double your unit count overnight. As of 2026, California has shattered the old limit that restricted multifamily properties, like duplexes, triplexes, and apartment buildings, to just 2 detached accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Now, if you own a multifamily property in high-growth cities like Sacramento, Long Beach, or San Diego, you are legally authorized to build up to 8 detached ADUs on your lot. The only primary restriction is that the number of new ADUs cannot exceed the number of existing units on the property. This means if you own an 8-unit apartment complex, you can now add 8 additional detached cottages or studios in the underutilized space of your backyard or side lot, transforming an 8-unit building into a 16-unit cash flow machine without the need to buy a single acre of new land. The true productivity breakthrough in this law lies in the total elimination of replacement parking requirements. Historically, if you wanted to build an ADU on a parking lot in Oakland or San Jose, the city would force you to replace every single parking spot you removed, which often made the project financially impossible. Under SB 1211, that barrier is gone. You can now repurpose surface parking lots and carports for housing without replacing a single spot. Furthermore, these projects now benefit from ministerial approval, meaning local planning commissions in cities like Santa Monica or Irvine cannot subject your project to subjective design reviews or public hearings. As long as you meet basic building codes and a modest 4-foot setback, they must approve your permit. This is a game changer for 2026. While other landlords are struggling with new restrictions, those utilizing SB 1211 are using their existing real estate to create massive, recession-proof value in the heart of California's housing crisis. Number 8. Permanent, No Owner Occupancy, AB 976. The investor's dream has finally been codified into permanent law, effectively removing the single largest barrier to scaling a residential rental portfolio in California. For years, a sunset clause loomed over the state, threatening to allow local cities like Pasadena, Encinitas, or Los Gatos to once again force landlords to live on site if they wanted to rent out an accessory dwelling unit, ADU. However, as of 2026, Assembly Bill 976 has permanently stripped local governments of this power. This means that whether your property is in the heart of San Diego or the suburbs of Sacramento, you can now legally rent out both the primary residence and the ADU to separate parties without ever stepping foot on the property. This law fundamentally changes the appraisal and exit strategy for every single-family home in the state, transforming them from simple residences into high-yield, two-unit investment vehicles that are 100% hands-off for the owner. The productivity implications for professional investors are profound. Previously, the threat of owner occupancy requirements made it nearly impossible to secure long-term institutional financing for ADU projects, as lenders feared the rental potential could be revoked by a change in local politics. With AB 976 making this prohibition permanent, the risk profile has dropped significantly, opening the door for more aggressive equity share and construction loan products. Furthermore, the 2026 updates under SB 543 go even further, relaxing owner occupancy rules for junior ADUs, JADUs, as well, provided they have their own bathroom facilities. In high-value coastal markets like Santa Monica or Newport Beach, this allows you to maximize every square inch of your lot for cash flow. You no longer have to choose between moving into your rental or leaving it underutilized. The state has officially handed you the keys to a fully passive, multi-unit income stream on a single-family lot. To stay ahead, you should look at your current holdings and identify hidden units that can now be legally rented out without jeopardizing your lifestyle or your privacy. Number 9. The Internet Choice Act, AB 1414. For years, many California landlords in dense urban markets like San Jose, Irvine, and Los Angeles have bolstered their bottom line through bulk billing arrangements, where they partner with a single internet service provider, ISP, to provide mandatory web access for every unit in the building. However, as of January 1, 2026, Assembly Bill 1414 has officially dismantled this monopoly model. This new law, added as Section 1942.8 to the Civil Code, mandates that for any lease commenced or renewed this year, you must allow your tenants to opt out of paying for any third-party internet, cellular, or satellite service that is offered in connection with a tenancy. Even if you have a multi-year exclusive contract with a provider like Comcast or AT&T, you cannot legally force a tenant to pay for that subscription as a mandatory amenity fee, if they would prefer to find their own provider or use a different technology altogether. The sting in this law for high-productivity property owners is the severe penalty for non-compliance. If a landlord in San Francisco or San Diego refuses to honor an opt-out request or continues to charge the fee after being notified, the tenant is explicitly authorized by state law to deduct the cost of that subscription directly from their rent. This is a self-executing penalty that doesn't require the tenant to go to court first. Furthermore, the law includes a strictly defined anti-retaliation clause. You cannot increase the rent or decrease other services simply because a tenant chose to opt out of your internet bundle. To stay protected in 2026, you must review your ancillary income streams immediately. If your business model relies on a kickback from a bulk billing agreement, you need to prepare for a potential drop in that revenue and ensure your billing software is capable of handling individual unit opt-outs to avoid a messy and potentially expensive rent deduction dispute. Number 10. The small landlord exception, the loophole. In a legislative landscape that feels increasingly hostile toward property owners, the small landlord exception under AB 12 stands as the final fortress for the independent investor. While the state has largely abolished the 2-month security deposit, a critical loophole remains for those who qualify as natural persons or family trusts. If you own no more than 2 residential rental properties that collectively contain no more than 4 units, regardless of where those properties are located in the United States, you may still be legally entitled to demand a security deposit of up to 2 months' rent. For a landlord in San Francisco or Los Angeles, where rents are astronomical, this small player status is the difference between having a $4,000 safety net and an $8,000 one. It provides the essential liquidity needed to cover catastrophic damages or a mid-lease vacancy that a single month's rent simply cannot touch. However, this loophole is a use-it-or-lose-it privilege with a dangerous poison pill. The 2026 enforcement guidelines make it clear that this exception is strictly prohibited if your prospective tenant is a member of the military. Under the Federal and State Service Members Civil Relief Act, SCRA, protections, you are capped at 1 month's rent for service members, period. If you attempt to use your small landlord status to overcharge a member of the armed forces in San Diego or near Travis Air Force Base, you aren't just violating a housing code. You are committing a civil rights violation that carries massive statutory penalties. To maximize this loophole, you must ensure your property is held in your own name or a qualifying family trust, as holding your rentals in a traditional multi-member LLC or a corporation will immediately disqualify you from this protection. Productivity in 2026 isn't just about managing tenants. It's about auditing your own legal structure to ensure you still fit into the small landlord box that keeps your retirement assets safe. The old rules of California real estate have been officially demolished, and in this new era, ignorance isn't just bliss, it's an express ticket to financial ruin. You now hold the master key to the 2026 legal landscape, so don't let your hard-earned equity become someone else's courtroom payday. If you're ready to dominate the market while others are being drained by compliance traps, ignite that like button, join our legion of elite investors by subscribing, and pass this tactical briefing to the one person you know who can't afford to lose it all.